Hey, what's up, guys? I'm here working on the RX7, trying to get some of this wiring done. This morning I went ahead and wired up the trigger wiring for the ignition, and I'm about to work on the coil wiring. I've been spending most of my time on my laptop here looking up wiring diagrams. I've got some wiring diagrams for my Haltech E8 right here, and I'm getting most of my RX7 information off of a few websites. On the Haltech E8, there are a couple of large connectors on the side. One's a 26 pin and one's a 34 pin. They have a diagram online for each one, what needs to be connected to what. This is the 26 pin. This is the 34 pin wiring diagram. I'm just kind of going over and through them and circling what I need to have and putting check marks on what I've already done. So this is what I worked on a little bit earlier. The trigger inputs from the trigger wheel to the ECU. This is the ECU, this long rectangle in the middle. I had to add a pin, and then I had to just connect a bunch of wires. It wasn't a big deal. I'm about to work on the coil wiring right now, which are signal wires and voltage to the coil to get them to work. I've got them over here. These are my FD coils because I have this FD motor, this 13B-rew here. I've got just about everything buttoned up on it. I think I need to mount the air intake temperature sensor. I got to get an exhaust so I can put the O2 sensor in, and I got to get clamps for these intercooler hoses. Another thing I still need to do is ducting for my V-mount setup. How low that is, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to be able to drive anywhere after this thing. But anyway, I'm planning some ducting on the sides, and then probably a panel right across here so air doesn't escape up through here. I've never V-mounted a car before, so it's kind of trial and error. I won't know how much I've aired until I can get this thing started and see if we're getting wind through the radiator and the intercooler. Most of the things I've seen online have the intercooler mounted a little more flat across here. I guess that's so the radiator can stand up a little taller. I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but I guess we'll find out when I start overheating. This is all the wiring I've worked on up to date. Got all the connectors on. Got them all labeled. What is this? This is injector number 1. Got my intake air temperature over there. Let's see, ones I wired up today are these brown wires. And these go to the trigger wheel on the crank pulley right here. There's trigger wheel, and there's the sensors right behind it, right by that cute little whale sticker. I don't know what that is. Anyways. One of the biggest challenges to overcome while I've been working on this wiring is figuring out which wires go to what. The Haltech's real simple because I have these diagrams, but the RX7's not so much. There was the FD RX7, there was the FC RX7, and the early models, the FBs, which didn't come with a 13B. But the FCs and the FDs came non-turbo and turbo. FDs were all turbo, but apparently they came with different sets of wiring. I'm having trouble figuring out whether I have early FD wiring or late model FD wiring. Basically, I'm just having to go on the internet and find diagrams and basically find wires that match up. It's a big mess. It's more tedious than anything. It doesn't make the job real hard. It just makes it time consuming, and there's a little bit of guesswork. The biggest thing I'm afraid of is when I go to turn the key on this thing that it's not going to crank up. You know, getting it to turn over is not a big deal. That's just putting 12 volts to the starter, but getting it to fire up is going to be a different story. So here's where we are. I talked to my buddy Ted and I talked to my buddy Alex. They're wiring guys. Alex helped do the wiring on my Volvo 242 drift car. Excuse me. Alex helped do the wiring on my Volvo 245 drift car. And Ted does his own wiring on all of his swaps, transmission swaps, engine swaps, things like that on Subarus. They notified me that I need a new igniter. I have I guess like an igniter that doesn't have enough channels to do what I need it to do. I was running, this board down here was on my Volvo drift car, and it was running off a distributor with a single coil. The RX7 runs off of an igniter with multiple coils. It looks like 3 coils to run the 4 spark plugs, the leading and the trailing. This igniter right here is not the correct igniter, so I'm going to have to get on Amazon or eBay or Haltech's website and see if they've got something that'll work for me, something that has multiple channels for all my coils. At this point, the wiring is the only thing that's really holding me up. Everything else is pretty much ready to go. One other thing that I need to do is I need to download a base map for the 13B with a similar setup, injectors, turbo, things like that. It'll take a little bit of research, but once I find it, I can plug it into the Howland software pretty easy. That's the software that they use to control the E8 that I'm running. Until then, I guess I'm stuck ordering parts, ordering a new igniter, and my battery relocation kit, which is another thing that's kind of holding me back. Like I said, mostly wiring. Hopefully I can get this thing running in the next couple of weeks. I just need to order some parts. But thank you all for joining me.